Welcome everyone to Hillcrest Connects, where we briefly want to share with you what it means to meet together as we catch a glimpse of what God is doing in and through our congregation. Today we have with us Wade Hodgman. He is the worship director here at Hillcrest Church. Welcome, Wade. It's good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
So can you share with us how COVID-19 has affected you and your ministry?
Yeah, it's been quite a bit different. I'd say the main difference as a worship leader is as you're leading people into worship, there's no one in the room. So you're kind of maybe imagining what people might be doing as they're worshiping along on their couch, in their living room. Maybe they're in their pajamas. They got a cup of coffee. But yeah, leading worship in a room where there is no people changes the dynamic like crazy. So.
Can you share with us how it affects you not having people interacting with you? Is that you find that challenging, difficult, not being able to read people's faces and lifting their hands and stuff? Is it?
Yeah, it definitely changes things. I believe worship, especially in the church context, is very corporate. So being up there on the stage and there not being any people immediately participating with you isn't how I feel like we're used to it being, and maybe not even how it's meant to be. I believe like our bands and our worship leaders, we're in this together and we're worshiping with the congregation. It's not a show, it's not a performance. We're just pointing people towards God. So to have them not in the room is very just different than we're used to.
And you must miss that interaction.
Oh yeah. Like it feels a little dry and empty in the room. There's less of an excitement or energy from people being right there with you in the same room.
So with this being different, then how do you prepare for going online? How do you prepare? And what do you think about as you're leading people who aren't there or that you can't see?
Yeah, I'd say it's been a learning curve for sure. We prepare musically basically in the same way. We get our set list together and we learn our instruments as best as we can, and we learn to sing our parts as best as we can. But as far as I don't know, it's a bit of a mental shift. I mean, we're pretty new into it. It's only been a few weeks. So I definitely wouldn't say we have it figured out by any means, but we're just, I mean, you could picture, like I said earlier, you could picture the people worshiping along on a Sunday morning. I tend to just focus on the Lord and what He's speaking to me in the moment and just doing my best to lead. I'd definitely say I like to lead by example, so I just want to worship while I'm doing it.
Can you share with us some of the things that God's teaching you or talking to you as you do lead, as you're leading people who are in their homes and who are listening online? What does He speak to you?
One thing that's been on my heart lately is just the fact that the church isn't a building, and I think we get caught up in this thing, and like programs are awesome and the building is awesome and we're blessed to have this facility. But if you look at the early church and what the church was and still should be, it's a body of believers. So we are still a body of believers. And I think God has just been impressing that upon my heart. We're still a church, even though we're scattered. Yeah, so it's been really interesting leading myself in worship. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but we're actually recording on Saturday and then we're airing it on Sunday morning. So I'll be here on a Saturday and we'll be working on the recording. And then on Sunday morning, I'll be at home with my wife and I'll be leading myself in worship, or I'll see myself on the stage, and it's been weird. And I'm a fairly kind of like a perfectionist, and I like to, figure out what's all going on, and sometimes I get distracted from actually worshiping in that context, like I'm trying to encourage others to do. And my wife will say, you're not even singing along. You're supposed to be singing along. That's what you're encouraging others to do. And I wasn't. And then she was right, and I had to just put my thoughts on God and worship along. Because it is weird when you're sitting on your couch with your wife and you have a cup of coffee and you're in your sweatpants to sing along as if you're in church. So it's something new. It's something we've never experienced before, and now we're in it. But I find, and it's what my mom taught me when we were kids, and we would be in church and she would say, sing along, and we're too cool or whatever, and she would just insist that we sang along. And as I sang along, those words began to speak to me, to touch my heart. And I think it's just the way God's designed us. But when we're speaking out and we're singing out those words, our heart and our mind goes to the place about what we're singing about. So if you're not singing along, I want to challenge you along with myself, just to do that. Because as you say the words and sing the words, God will begin to speak to your heart.
Can you talk to us about how it's affecting your personal life, your family life?
Yeah, dynamic at home is definitely a bit different. My wife, Danielle, tends to work quite a bit, and I work quite a bit in the evenings, especially. So generally we're like ships, kind of passing in the night type of thing. And she's been off from work at the library. The library is closed to the public. So she's been at home, and I've been working from home more. So there's a lot more time at home together, which has its pros and its cons, I think. Like sometimes we can annoy each other a little bit, but for the most part, we've actually enjoyed spending more time together.
And how has it affected your relationship?
Well, it's been like an ongoing process, I would say, in marriage, learning how to deal with conflict. I'm fairly direct person, and I'll say what's on my mind, and she has more feelings than I do. So sometimes we can kind of clash or butt heads. So learning how to communicate and learning how to deal with conflict in a very healthy way. And we've had that opportunity in this time for sure. She cut my hair the other day, and it was her first time even with the clippers, and it was actually the day after everything closed. All the barbershops closed, and we were going for it, and she had pulled out the clippers at one point, and there was no guard on it, and I was like, I don't know if that's the right one. So we argued a bit about that, but I was right. So yeah, I'm glad I stopped her.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us what you miss most about the changes that have happened here in the context of your church family.
Yeah, so as a worship band, so far we've been fortunate enough to still have our regular Thursday rehearsal, which has been an amazing time of gathering because everyone is so cooped up and stuck in their homes that when they get here on a Thursday night, they're just ready to play music with their friends, and everyone's excited to be there because everything else has been put on pause. So that's been really cool. But yeah, definitely miss, the Sunday morning, the people coming through the building, everyone having coffee and chatting together. Like it's dead here on a weekend, right? So we definitely miss, like our friends, seeing more of our friends at the same time. So
do you have a special word or something that God's laid on your heart you want to share with the congregation?
I've shared this a few times now, and I shared it at our worship night that we did from our living room on Sunday night. And I think it's just God's been impressing on me that the story of Peter walking on the water. And he didn't do it perfectly, and we won't do it perfectly either. But Jesus told him to keep his eyes on him. There was a storm all around, but Jesus said, keep your eyes on me. And I think we're in a storm now. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And we don't know what to do in the storm. But I think if we can keep our focus, our eyes on Jesus, he is our God. He is in control. And I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed if you keep your attention on the storm. So I would just encourage you and myself, I'm preaching to myself, that we keep our attention, we keep our focus on Jesus.
Thanks, Wade. And thanks for coming in. It was good to have you here. Thank you for joining us again. And to stay connected with us, you can follow us on our social media sites, sign up on Realm, or come visit us anytime at hillcrestchurch.net.